The last transmission from the Galactic Council arrived on a Tuesday. Sarah Chun remembered that detail with painful clarity as she stood in the ruins of what had once been Earth's most advanced communication array. The message had been brief, clinical in its dismissal. Species designation human, classification downgraded to extinct. All territorial claims hereby dissolved. Council mandate 2387 Delta, effective immediately. That had been 3 years ago. 3 years since the galaxy had written off humanity as another failed experiment in evolution. The irony wasn't lost on anyone who remained. The very qualities that made humans unfit for galactic society were exactly what had kept them alive when everyone else had given up on them. The war with the Zephyrian Empire had been brutal. Entire human colonies had been glassed from orbit, their populations scattered to the stellar winds. Earth itself bore the scars of orbital bombardment, great craters where cities once stood. The official reports from the Council spoke of humanity's noble but futile resistance against a technologically superior foe. What they didn't mention was how the war had ended not with humanity's surrender, but with their complete disappearance. Marcus Webb adjusted his environmental suit as he picked his way through the debris field that had once been Luna Station. As one of the few remaining military commanders, he'd overseen the greatest evacuation in human history. Not the panicked flight the galaxy expected, but a methodical, carefully planned exodus that had fooled even their supposed allies. Another Council patrol just passed through the Sol system. His communications officer reported through the encrypted channel. They're still cataloging wreckage, looking for any signs of human survivors to relocate. Webb almost smiled at that. The Council's definition of relocation usually involved primitive worlds with barely breathable atmospheres and strict monitoring. They'd done it to dozens of species, reduce them to manageable numbers, scatter them across backwater planets, and slowly integrate them into galactic society as laborers and service workers. But humans had learned something during their brief membership in the Galactic Council. They'd learned how to watch, how to listen, and how to plan. While other species focused on grand gestures and formal diplomacy, humans had quietly mapped every trade route, every hidden system, every forgotten corner of the galaxy where a determined species might carve out a new existence. The exodus hadn't been random. Every ship that left the Sol system carried not just refugees, but carefully selected specialists. Engineers who understood alien technology, scientists who had studied xenobiology, soldiers who had fought against overwhelming odds and somehow survived. Most importantly, they carried children, the next generation who would grow up knowing that the galaxy had abandoned them. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in what had once been the genetic archives beneath the Atacama Desert. The facility had been built to withstand nuclear war, but even it showed damage from the Zephyrian attacks. She was copying the last of the critical data, not just human DNA samples, but the complete genetic libraries they'd managed to acquire during their time in the Council. The seed ships are almost ready, she reported to the Hidden Command Center. The seed ships were humanity's insurance policy, automated vessels carrying genetic material, manufacturing equipment, and AI systems capable of establishing human colonies even if every living human died in the process. But they weren't just preservation tools. Hidden in their programming were instructions that would serve a very different purpose in the years to come. The galaxy thought humans were predictable. They thought human emotion made them weak. The human attachment to their homeworld would keep them tied to the Sol system even after defeat. The Council had counted on human psychology working against them. The need to mourn, to rebuild, to cling to familiar ground. Instead, humanity had done what they did best. They adapted. The fake distress signals had been Chen's idea. Broadcast on frequencies the Council monitored, they painted a picture of desperate human survivors hiding in asteroid fields and dead worlds, slowly dying out as their equipment failed, and their hope faded. The signals were convincing because they contained real pain, real loss. But what they didn't reveal was the scope of human preparation. For every signal that spoke of failing life support, there were 10 ships making their way to pre-selected systems beyond Council space. For every message about dwindling supplies, there were 100 carefully hidden supply caches being established in the galactic rim. The galaxy was vast, far larger than even the Council realized, and Humans had discovered something their former allies had forgotten in their comfort and complacency. Empty space wasn't really empty. It was full of possibilities. Commander Lisa Park guided her stealth ship through the outer reaches of the Kepler 442 system. The planet below was listed in Council databases as marginally habitable, no strategic value. Perfect for humanity's purposes. Her ship's sensors, upgraded with technology reverse-engineered from a dozen alien species, had already identified mineral deposits that would support heavy industry. Survey complete, she reported. This one goes on the list. The list was growing. Worlds the Council had dismissed, systems they'd never bothered to explore, regions of space considered too dangerous or too remote to be worth their attention. Humanity was claiming them all, not with grand announcements or territorial markers, but with quiet settlement and careful development. The beauty of being declared extinct was that no one looked for you anymore. Back on what remained of Earth, the final phase of the deception was playing out. The automated systems were broadcasting their last signals. Messages of human extinction, of a once proud species finally succumbing to the harsh realities of galactic politics. The Council would investigate, find the evidence they expected to find, and mark humanity as another cautionary tale in their vast bureaucratic files. But in the hidden bunkers and shielded facilities scattered across the solar system, the real work was being completed. The quantum communication network that would connect human settlements across the galaxy was coming online. The AI systems that would coordinate their expansion were receiving their final instructions. The manufacturing templates that would allow them to build anything from farming equipment to warships using local materials were being distributed. Webb watched the last evacuation ship disappear into hyperspace, carrying with it the final group of human survivors from Earth. Or, rather, the final group that would officially exist. The planet below him wasn't truly dead. It was simply sleeping, waiting for the day when humanity would return to reclaim what was theirs. Sir, his aide asked, do you really think we can build something the Council will respect? Something that will make them regret abandoning us? Webb looked out at the stars, thinking of all the human ships already spreading across the galaxy, all the worlds they would claim, all the technologies they would develop in secret while the galaxy forgot they existed. Humanity had always been at their best when their backs were against the wall. Now, they had the ultimate motivator, the chance to prove that being underestimated was the greatest gift their enemies could give them. Respect. Webb replied, no, we're going to build something that will make them afraid. The ship's engines hummed to life, carrying them away from the Sol system toward a future that would be written in secret, far from the watching eyes of the Galactic Council. Behind them, automated systems began the final phase of the deception, creating a tomb for humanity that would hide the birth of something far more dangerous. An empire built in shadows, forged by the forgotten, and designed for the day when the galaxy would learn the price of writing off the human species. 27 years had passed since the galaxy declared humanity extinct. In the Council chambers on Centauri Prime, the human crisis was now barely a footnote in historical records, mentioned only in academic papers about failed species integration. The Zephyrian Empire had moved on to new conquests, and trade routes that once connected human worlds now carried goods between alien species who had forgotten humans ever existed. But in the depths of space, far beyond the Council's carefully mapped territories, something unprecedented was taking shape. Admiral Rosa Martinez stood on the command deck of the Defiance, humanity's first true deep space warship built entirely outside of galactic observation. The vessel incorporated technology from 17 different alien species, improved upon by human engineering and powered by innovations the Council had never imagined possible. Around her, the bridge hummed with activity as her crew monitored the construction of New Prometheus, humanity's first major industrial world. The planet below was a testament to human adaptability. When the first colony ship had arrived 18 years ago, it had found a world with a toxic atmosphere and crushing gravity. Today, atmospheric processors hummed across 3 continents, slowly converting the air to something humans could breathe. Massive gravity generators, built using principles stolen from defunct Altarian technology, created zones of Earth normal gravity in key population centers. Admiral, her communications officer called out, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Shadow Network. The Shadow Network was humanity's greatest achievement and most closely guarded secret. Using quantum entanglement principles that even the Council scientists had dismissed as impossible, humans had created an instantaneous communication system that connected their hidden colonies across the galaxy. No transmission delays, no interceptable signals, and no way for anyone to trace the communications back to their sources. The message was from Dr. James Chun, Sarah's son, now heading the Xenobiology Research Station in the Vega Secunda system. His discovery would change everything. "We've cracked it." His voice came through crystal clear despite being transmitted across 800 light-years. The Etherian memory crystals aren't just data storage. They're alive, and they've been recording everything for the past 3,000 years. Martinez felt her pulse quicken. The Etherians were an ancient species that had vanished from the galaxy millennia ago, leaving behind only scattered ruins and strange crystalline structures. The Council had classified their technology as inert, interesting only to archaeologists and historians. But humans had developed a talent for seeing potential where others saw failure. "How much data are we talking about?" Martinez asked. "Complete records of galactic politics, trade agreements, military movements, and technological developments for 3 millennia. We have the real history of the galaxy, not the sanitized version the Council teaches. And more importantly, we have the locations of every Etherian facility in the galaxy. Most of them are still intact." This was the break humanity had been waiting for. While the Council recycled old technologies and maintained their rigid bureaucracy, humans have been systematically exploring every piece of ancient technology they could find. The Etherian Crystal Network would give them access to facilities and resources beyond anything they dared hope for. Captain Michael Torres was experiencing the discovery firsthand from his position in the Outer Rim. His exploration ship, the Pathfinder, had just activated an Etherian facility on a dead world in the Cassiopeia sector. The ancient machinery had responded to human genetic markers in a way that baffled the ship's scientists. "It's like they were expecting us," Torres reported through the quantum link. "The facility is powering up automatically, and the manufacturing systems are coming online. We're looking at production capabilities that dwarf anything the Council has ever built." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just hiding in the galactic shadows anymore. They were inheriting the technology of one of the most advanced civilizations in galactic history. The Etherians had built their facilities to last, and somehow, humans were compatible with their systems in ways no other species had managed. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now in her 70s but still sharp as a laser, was coordinating the xenobiology research from her hidden laboratory on New Geneva. The genetic modifications she'd been working on were finally bearing fruit. The third generation of humans born in exile were already showing enhanced adaptations to alien environments. They could process different atmospheric compositions, tolerate wider temperature ranges, and, most importantly, their neural patterns showed increased compatibility with Etherian technology. "We're not just surviving out here," she reported during the weekly council meeting. "We're evolving. These children are becoming something the galaxy has never seen before." The evolution wasn't just biological. Human society itself was changing in ways the Council psychologists would never have predicted. Growing up with the knowledge that they were supposedly extinct had given the younger generation a unique perspective on galactic politics. They understood that weakness was temporary, that being underestimated was an advantage, and that the greatest strength came from unity, forged in adversity. Lieutenant Commander Alex Park, daughter of the survey officer Lisa Park, exemplified this new generation. At 25, she commanded a fleet of stealth reconnaissance ships that had mapped more unknown systems in the past 5 years than the Council had explored in the past century. Her ships used Etherian-derived technology to remain completely invisible to conventional sensors while gathering intelligence on galactic military movements and trade patterns. "The Council's getting complacent," she reported from her flagship deep in unexplored space. "Their patrol routes haven't changed in 15 years. Their fleet compositions are designed for intimidating primitive species, not for actual warfare. If we wanted to, we could take out half their border stations before they even knew they were under attack." But warfare wasn't humanity's goal. At least, not yet. The secret human government, operating from a massive hidden station in the galactic void, had developed a far more sophisticated plan. They called it the Convergence Protocol, and it would reshape the galaxy without firing a single shot. Premier Catherine Webb, Marcus Webb's daughter, and now the leader of humanity's shadow government, outlined the plan to her council of department heads. Each was responsible for a different aspect of human expansion, and together they coordinated the activities of millions of humans spread across hundreds of worlds. Phase 1 was survival and concealment, Webb explained, her voice carrying the same steel that had made her father legendary. Phase 2 was expansion and infiltration. Now we begin Phase 3, subtle influence and technological supremacy. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Humanity would slowly begin revealing advanced technologies to the galaxy, but not as human innovations. Instead, they would appear to be discoveries made by council member species, breakthroughs that would gradually shift the balance of power away from the traditional galactic elite. Dr. Marcus Reeves, head of the Technology Distribution Division, had already begun implementing the first stages. We've seeded the Altarian research stations with discovered data crystals containing fusion technology that's 30% more efficient than their current systems. The crystals are designed to look like ancient Etherian artifacts, so there's no way to trace them back to us. Similar operations were underway across the galaxy. The Rigelian Trade Confederation would soon discover revolutionary manufacturing techniques. The Centauri Scientific Collective would uncover new principles of faster-than-light travel. The vegan agricultural worlds would find advanced terraforming technologies that would double their food production. Each discovery would be significant enough to disrupt existing power structures, but not so advanced as to seem suspicious. The Council would find themselves dealing with a galaxy where technological progress was accelerating beyond their ability to control it, where minor species were suddenly developing capabilities that threatened the established order. And behind it all, humanity would be watching, learning, and growing stronger. The true genius of the Convergence Protocol wasn't just technological distribution. It was the careful cultivation of galactic instability. As different species gained access to more advanced technologies, old alliances would shift, new conflicts would emerge, and the Council's authority would gradually weaken. Commander Sarah Kim, operating from a hidden base in the Orion sector, was already seeing the early effects. Intelligence reports indicate that the Altarian fusion technology has caused significant tension with the Procyon Energy Consortium. They're accusing the Altarians of trade agreement violations, and both sides are mobilizing their fleets. This was exactly what humanity wanted. A galaxy in flux where the old certainties were breaking down and new opportunities were emerging. While the established powers fought over scraps of territory and trade advantages, humanity would continue expanding into the vast, unexplored regions of space, building strength and preparing for the day when they would step out of the shadows. That day was still years away, but the foundation was already being laid. Human children born on hidden worlds were growing up with capabilities the galaxy had never imagined. Ancient Etherian facilities were being restored and improved with human innovation. And across the galaxy, the seeds of change were taking root, slowly transforming the political landscape in ways the Council could not predict or control. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, written them off as another failed species that couldn't adapt to the realities of interstellar politics. Soon, they would learn the price of that mistake. But by then, it would be far too late to change the outcome. 42 years after their supposed extinction, humanity achieved something the galaxy had never seen before. They managed to destabilize 3 major trade alliances, trigger the collapse of 2 ancient territorial agreements, and cause a technological revolution that would reshape interstellar civilization, all without anyone knowing they existed. The Convergence Protocol had worked better than even its creators had dared hope. Fleet Admiral Diana Torres stood in the command center of Olympus Station, humanity's greatest engineering achievement. Built inside a massive asteroid in the void between galaxies, the station was invisible to all known detection methods and served as the coordination hub for human operations across the galaxy. The holographic display before her showed the real-time status of galactic civilization, fed by quantum sensors hidden throughout known space. The display painted a picture of a galaxy in chaos. The Zephyrian Empire, once the dominant military power, was struggling to maintain control of its outer territories as newly advanced species challenged their authority. The Altarian Confederation had used their enhanced fusion technology to build a fleet that rivaled the Zephyrians in firepower. The Rigelian Trade Federation's revolutionary manufacturing capabilities had allowed them to undercut traditional suppliers and corner markets across 12 sectors. Most satisfying of all, the Galactic Council itself was fracturing. Member species who had once quietly accepted council authority were now demanding equal representation and questioning decisions that had gone unchallenged for centuries. Admiral, her intelligence coordinator, reported, "We're receiving confirmation of the Procyon Altair conflict escalation. Both sides have committed their entire fleets to the disputed mining system." Torres nodded grimly. The conflict had been carefully orchestrated over the course of 3 years. Humanity had discovered that the system contained rare elements essential for the new fusion technology, then ensured that both species found evidence pointing to their exclusive claim to the territory. The resulting war would weaken both civilizations while demonstrating to the galaxy that the old order was breaking down. But the true revolution wasn't happening in the council chambers or on the battlefields. It was occurring in the hidden corners of space where humanity had built something unprecedented in galactic history, a truly distributed civilization. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, Elena Vasquez's successor as head of human development, reviewed the latest population reports from her laboratory on New Earth Prime. The statistics were remarkable. In 4 decades, humanity had grown from a few million survivors to nearly 800 million people spread across 237 worlds. But numbers alone didn't tell the full story. These weren't traditional human populations. The children and grandchildren of the Exodus had been modified, enhanced, and adapted in ways that would have horrified the original Galactic Council. They could survive in environments that would kill baseline humans within hours, process information at rates that rivaled AI systems, and, most importantly, they could interface directly with Etherian technology in ways that no other species could match. "We're not just rebuilding humanity," Martinez reported to the Shadow Council. "We're creating something entirely new, something the galaxy has never encountered before." The Etherian connection had proven to be the key to everything. As more ancient facilities came online, humanity discovered that the mysterious vanished species had faced the same problems with the early Galactic Council that humans encountered millennia later. The Etherians had been independent, innovative, and unwilling to submit to the bureaucratic control that the Council demanded. Their solution had been elegant and terrifying. Instead of fighting the Council directly, they had simply stepped outside of galactic civilization entirely, establishing a parallel infrastructure that operated beyond Council knowledge or control. When they finally vanished, it wasn't because they had been destroyed or driven away. They had ascended to something beyond physical existence, leaving their technology behind for whoever might prove worthy of inheriting it. Captain Alex Park, now commanding the Deep Space Exploration Fleet, had made contact with what remained of Etherian consciousness 3 months ago. The encounter had taken place in a facility at the galactic core, in a region of space so dangerous that even Council survey ships avoided it. "They're still here," she reported during the classified briefing. "Not in physical form, but as pure information patterns integrated into their crystal matrix technology. They've been waiting for a species capable of understanding their true purpose." The Etherians' true purpose had been to prepare the galaxy for something they called the Great Convergence, a crisis that would threaten all organic life and require unity and innovation to survive. They had seen it coming millennia ago, but the species of their era weren't ready for the challenge. The Galactic Council's bureaucratic approach and rigid thinking would be useless when a crisis arrived. Humanity, however, showed promise. Their ability to adapt, innovate, and work together despite diversity made them the inheritors the Etherians had hoped to find. The ancient technology wasn't just being given to humans, it was being earned through their actions and choices. The revelation changed everything about humanity's long-term planning. Premier Catherine Webb convened an emergency session of the Shadow Council to address the implications. The holographic figures of humanity's leaders appeared around the secure conference room, each representing a different aspect of their hidden civilization. If the Etherians are correct, Webb began, then we're not just rebuilding human civilization. We're preparing to defend the galaxy against a threat that could destroy everything we know. Admiral Martinez, speaking from the bridge of humanity's most advanced warship, outlined the military implications. Our current expansion rate gives us operational capability across 40% of the galaxy within the next 20 years. If we need to coordinate a galactic defense, we'll need complete coverage. Dr. Reeves, now heading the Advanced Technology Division, had even more startling news. The Etherian archives contain complete specifications for weapons and defensive systems beyond anything currently in use. We're talking about technology that could reshape entire star systems, create artificial gravity wells, and even manipulate the fundamental forces that hold matter together. The scope of the challenge was staggering. According to Etherian records, the threat would emerge from the galactic void, from the dark matter structures that existed between galaxies. It wouldn't be a conventional invasion or war, but rather a fundamental alteration of physical reality that would make organic life impossible. The only defense would require the coordination of resources from across the galaxy, technological innovation beyond anything previously achieved, and the kind of unity that the current Galactic Council was incapable of providing. Humanity would need to reveal itself, but not as the defeated refugees the galaxy remembered. They would emerge as the inheritors of the most advanced civilization in galactic history, possessing capabilities that would dwarf everything the Council thought they knew about technology and warfare. The transition would need to be carefully managed. Decades of secret development had given humanity advantages that could easily be seen as threats by the established powers. The key would be to reveal human capabilities gradually, in the context of growing galactic instability and the need for new solutions to emerging problems. Commander Lisa Chun, Sarah Chin's daughter and now head of information warfare, had been preparing for this moment for years. We've already seeded the galactic networks with rumors about ancient technologies being discovered in the Outer Rim. Archaeological expeditions are finding new Etherian sites every month. When we're ready to reveal ourselves, it will seem like a natural progression of galactic development rather than a sudden appearance of a new power. The psychological preparation was just as important as the technological. The galaxy species had grown comfortable with the idea that major technological advancement came slowly through careful research and bureaucratic approval. The sudden appearance of revolutionary capabilities would be destabilizing unless it was presented in the right context. Dr. Sarah Kim, now heading the xenopsychology department, had studied the behavioral patterns of every major galactic species. Most of them will accept rapid technological change if they believe it's coming from ancient, safe sources rather than from potentially hostile newcomers. The Etherian connection gives us credibility without triggering invasion responses. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the Shadow Council. Humanity had been dismissed as too emotional, too unpredictable, too dangerous for galactic civilization. Now they were preparing to save that same civilization from a threat it couldn't even comprehend. But first, they needed to finish destabilizing the old order. The Galactic Council's rigid hierarchy and bureaucratic thinking would be a liability in the crisis to come. The galaxy needed new leadership, new alliances, and new ways of thinking about cooperation and survival. Admiral Torres authorized the next phase of the Convergence Protocol. Advanced technologies would begin appearing throughout the galaxy at an accelerated pace. Ancient ruins would reveal systems that challenged fundamental assumptions about physics and engineering. Species that had never shown particular innovation would suddenly develop capabilities that threatened the established order. The galaxy would be forced to adapt or collapse. And when the chaos reached its peak, when the old certainties had crumbled and the established powers were desperate for solutions, humanity would step out of the shadows. Not as conquerors, but as saviors. Not as the defeated remnants of a failed species, but as the inheritors of the most advanced civilization in galactic history. The galaxy had forgotten humanity. Soon, they would never be able to forget them again. 58 years after humanity's supposed extinction, The galaxy received a transmission that would shatter everything they thought they knew about their own history and future. The message originated from coordinates that didn't exist on any star chart, a region of space so remote that even the most advanced Council explorers had never reached it. The signal was broadcast on every known frequency simultaneously, with translation protocols that worked for all galactic languages. But, most disturbing of all, it was clearly of human origin. High Counselor Varek of the Zephyrian Empire stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his scaled features reflecting the confusion and fear that gripped every representative in the chamber. The massive holographic display showed the source of the transmission, a structure that dwarfed even the largest Council installations, built around what appeared to be an artificial star. The transmission claims to be from something called the Human Stellar Commonwealth, Varek announced, his voice carrying the weight of authority that was rapidly becoming meaningless. They are requesting immediate diplomatic contact regarding what they term galactic security concerns of the highest priority. The chamber erupted in confused debate. Humans were extinct. The Council had verified their destruction personally, had cataloged the ruins of their worlds, had witnessed the final transmissions from their dying colonies. How could a species that no longer existed have built something that made even Zephyrian engineering look primitive? Ambassador Threx of the Altarian Confederation raised her crystalline appendage for attention. Our intelligence services have detected massive energy signatures throughout the galactic rim. Construction on a scale that defies our understanding of resource allocation. If these are indeed human facilities, then we are looking at a civilization that has grown beyond anything in our historical records. The truth was far more staggering than they could imagine. Admiral Diana Torres stood on the command deck of the Olympus, watching as humanity's greatest secret was finally revealed to the galaxy. Around the hidden station, the stealth fields were powering down for the first time in 6 decades, revealing a construction project that had consumed the resources of 3 entire star systems. The Olympus wasn't just a space station. It was a mobile city-state, home to over 10 million humans and equipped with technology that could have conquered the galaxy several times over. But it was just one of 12 such installations that humanity had built in the void between galaxies. All stations are reporting ready, her communications officer announced. The Commonwealth Fleet is standing by for deployment. The Commonwealth Fleet represented the culmination of human engineering and Etherian technology. Over 3,000 ships, each one incorporating advances that made them superior to anything in the Council's arsenal. They had been built in hidden shipyards using resources extracted from previously unknown systems, crewed by humans whose capabilities had been enhanced to superhuman levels. But the fleet wasn't intended for conquest. The Etherian warning had proven accurate. Deep space monitoring stations had detected the first signs of the phenomenon the ancient species had feared, reality distortions moving toward the galaxy from the cosmic void. Premier Catherine Webb authorized the first phase of humanity's emergence from the shadows. Across the galaxy, installations that had been hidden for decades began revealing themselves. Survey ships conducting routine patrols suddenly found massive human facilities and systems they had mapped as empty. Trade routes that had operated for centuries discovered monitoring stations that had been watching their activities since before their grandparents were born. The psychological impact was devastating. Every major galactic power realized simultaneously that their most sensitive activities had been observed by a species they had believed extinct. Military movements, diplomatic negotiations, technological research, all of it had been monitored by human intelligence services for over half a century. Captain Alex Park, now commanding the diplomatic contact vessel, approached the Council's primary facility at maximum visibility. Her ship, the Ambassador, was designed to demonstrate human capabilities without appearing threatening. It was clear to any observer that the vessel incorporated technology far beyond anything the Council possessed, but its configuration and approach patterns indicated peaceful intentions. The first direct contact in nearly 60 years took place in the Council's main meeting chamber, with representatives from every major galactic power in attendance. Park materialized via advanced teleportation technology, appearing in a shimmer of energy that left the assembled aliens stunned. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "I bring greetings from the human stellar commonwealth and urgent warnings about a threat that will affect every living being in this galaxy." The initial reaction was exactly what humanity had expected. Accusations of deception, demands for explanations about how humans had survived their supposed extinction, and barely controlled panic about the implications of human technological superiority. But underneath the diplomatic chaos, Park could see the fear that was driving their responses. "You were declared extinct," High Counselor Varek stated bluntly. "Our own forces verified the destruction of your species. How is this possible?" Park activated a holographic display that showed the true scope of human development. Star systems that had been empty on council charts revealed thriving human colonies. Space that had been considered too dangerous to explore showed massive industrial facilities. The void between galaxies displayed a network of installations that connected human territories across impossible distances. "We weren't destroyed," Park explained calmly. "We were liberated. When the galaxy wrote us off as extinct, we were freed from the limitations of council oversight and bureaucracy. We could develop as we chose, explore as we wished, and prepare for the challenges that your rigid thinking would never have allowed you to anticipate." She gestured toward a new section of the display, showing the deep space monitoring data that had detected the approaching crisis. "The phenomenon approaching our galaxy will begin manifesting within 18 months. It will fundamentally alter the nature of space-time in ways that will make organic life impossible. The only defense requires resources and coordination on a scale that your current political structure cannot provide." The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The galaxy faced extinction, and their only hope of survival lay with a species they had abandoned and forgotten. Dr. Jennifer Martinez provided the scientific briefing from her research facility, her image transmitted directly into the council chamber. "Our analysis of the phenomenon indicates that it operates by destabilizing the quantum foundations of matter itself. Organic chemistry becomes impossible. Planetary atmospheres dissipate. Stars themselves begin to burn differently, producing radiation that sterilizes entire systems. The technology required to defend against such a threat was beyond anything in the Council's experience. It required the manipulation of fundamental forces, the construction of defensive systems on a galactic scale, and coordination between billions of individuals across thousands of worlds. Fortunately," Martinez continued, "we have spent the past 6 decades developing exactly these capabilities. The Etherian archives contain detailed information about the phenomenon, including theoretical approaches to defense. What they lacked was a species capable of implementing their solutions." The revelation about the Etherians sent another shock through the Council. The mysterious ancient species had been humanity's benefactors and teachers, sharing knowledge that transformed human civilization while remaining hidden from the rest of the galaxy. But, more importantly, they had been preparing for this crisis for millennia. Fleet Admiral Rosa Martinez took over the briefing, her image appearing alongside tactical displays that showed the scope of human military capabilities. "The Commonwealth maintains defensive installations in every major system, monitoring stations throughout the galactic void, and rapid response capabilities that could deploy anywhere in the galaxy within hours. We have been preparing for this crisis since our supposed extinction." The numbers were staggering. Human territory now encompassed nearly 60% of the galaxy, including regions that other species had never even explored. Their population had grown to over 2 billion individuals, each one enhanced with technology that made them capable of surviving in environments that would kill baseline humans. Most importantly, they had developed a distributed command structure that could coordinate responses across galactic distances in real time. But the greatest shock was yet to come. Premier Webb's image appeared in the chamber, her authority evident in every gesture despite the fact that she represented a species the Council had believed extinct. "The Commonwealth is prepared to coordinate galactic defense against the approaching phenomenon. However, this will require the complete restructuring of galactic civilization along lines that prioritize survival over political convenience." Her proposal was breathtaking in its scope. The existing council structure would be dissolved, replaced by an emergency coalition government with humanity providing coordination and strategic direction. Each species would contribute their unique capabilities to a unified defense effort. Resources would be allocated based on survival requirements rather than political considerations. The alternative was extinction for every organic species in the galaxy. You're asking us to surrender our sovereignty to a species we thought was dead, Ambassador Threx observed, her crystalline form flickering with agitation. We're offering to save your civilization, Webb replied simply. The choice is yours to make. But the timeline is not negotiable. The phenomenon will arrive whether or not you accept our help. The debate that followed would reshape galactic civilization forever. Some species demanded time to verify human claims. Others called for immediate military action against what they saw as human deception. But underlying all the political posturing was the growing realization that humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had built a civilization capable of surviving in the cosmic void, developing technology that surpassed anything previously imagined, and preparing for a crisis that could destroy everything the galaxy had built over millions of years of development. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, written them off as another failed experiment in evolution. Now those same humans were offering to save everyone who had abandoned them. The irony was not lost on anyone involved. But as the evidence of the approaching crisis became undeniable, and the scope of human capabilities became clear, even the most resistant council members began to understand that their choice was simple. Accept human leadership and survive, or maintain their pride and face extinction. The age of human dominance was about to begin, not through conquest, but through necessity. And the galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating the species they had once declared extinct. 5 years after first contact with the human stellar commonwealth, the galaxy had been transformed beyond recognition. The Galactic Council chambers on Centauri Prime now hosted the emergency coalition government, with Premier Catherine Webb presiding over representatives from 743 species working together toward their mutual survival. The change hadn't come easily. 3 species had initially refused to cooperate, convinced that human claims about the approaching crisis were elaborate deceptions designed to establish human dominance. They had been given the choice to observe the phenomenon's effects from outside coalition protection. None of them survived the preliminary reality distortions that preceded the main event. Fleet Admiral Diana Torres stood in the command center of the Zeus, humanity's newest fortress-class vessel, watching as the final preparations for galactic defense reached completion. The ship itself was a marvel of engineering that incorporated the best of human innovation and Etherian legacy technology, but it was just one component of a defensive network that spanned the entire galaxy. Status report, she requested, though she already knew the answer from the quantum data streams flowing through her enhanced neural interface. All primary grid points are online, her tactical coordinator responded. The reality stabilization field generators are operating at optimal parameters. Deep space monitoring confirms that the phenomenon has accelerated its approach and will make contact with the galactic rim in approximately 6 hours. 6 hours until the greatest test in galactic history. 6 hours to prove that the impossible alliance between humans and the species who had abandoned them could actually work. The reality stabilization grid was humanity's greatest engineering achievement, surpassing even their hidden expansion into the cosmic void. 3 trillion individual field generators, each one the size of a small moon, positioned throughout the galaxy in a carefully calculated pattern that would maintain the quantum foundations of space-time even as the phenomenon tried to unravel them. The generators had been built using resources from every major galactic civilization, constructed by workers from hundreds of different species, and coordinated by human engineers whose enhanced capabilities allowed them to manage the staggering complexity of the project. It had required the complete reorganization of galactic society, the abandonment of traditional territorial boundaries, and the development of new forms of cooperation that most species had thought impossible. Dr. Sarah Martinez, now heading the Coalition's Applied Physics Division, monitored the grid's performance from her laboratory on New Prometheus. At 78 years old, she was one of the few humans who remembered the old Earth, though her enhanced physiology made her appear decades younger. Her team included some of the most brilliant minds from 30 different species, working together on problems that would have baffled their predecessors. The field resonance is holding steady across all sectors, she reported through the Quantum Communication Network. We're seeing some fluctuation in the outer rim generators as they begin to encounter the phenomenon's leading edge, but well within acceptable parameters. The outer rim generators were humanity's early warning system, designed to provide real-time data about the phenomenon's effects while maintaining the defensive integrity of the inner grid. The readings they were providing confirmed humanity's worst fears about the nature of the threat. Captain Alex Park, now commanding the Deep Space Monitoring Fleet, transmitted her observations from a position just outside the galactic boundary. Direct observation confirms theoretical predictions. The phenomenon is systematically destabilizing the quantum structure of spacetime. Matter is losing coherence at the subatomic level. We're looking at complete breakdown of physical reality. The sight was both terrifying and fascinating. Space itself appeared to be dissolving, with stars flickering out of existence and entire systems vanishing into quantum chaos. The phenomenon wasn't destroying matter so much as undoing the fundamental forces that held it together. But the reality stabilization grid was holding. Each generator created a localized zone of stable spacetime, and the overlapping fields formed a protective barrier that maintained normal physics throughout the galaxy. The calculations had been perfect, the engineering had been flawless, and, most importantly, the cooperation between species had exceeded even humanity's optimistic projections. Premier Webb watched the crisis unfold from the Coalition Command Center, surrounded by representatives from every major galactic power. The chamber had been redesigned to accommodate the diverse physiological needs of hundreds of species, with atmospheric zones, gravity fields, and communication systems that allowed seamless interaction between beings who had once viewed each other as incomprehensible aliens. The grid is performing exactly as projected, she announced to the assembled delegates. Phase 1 defenses are holding stable. Initiating Phase 2 protocols. Phase 2 was the truly ambitious part of the plan. Rather than simply defending against the phenomenon, humanity proposed to study it, understand it, and ultimately turn its power to galactic advantage. The same forces that could unravel matter could also be harnessed to restructure it, opening possibilities for engineering projects that dwarfed even the reality stabilization grid. Dr. Marcus Chun, great-grandson of Sarah Chun and now heading the phenomenon analysis team, had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Containment fields are active around observation point alpha. We're successfully isolating a small portion of the phenomenon for detailed study. The containment operation was being conducted in a specially prepared region of space, far from any inhabited systems, but within the protective envelope of the stabilization grid. Human scientists, enhanced with etherian neural interfaces, were directly observing the breakdown of reality and documenting the process at the quantum level. Initial analysis confirms the Etherian theories, Chun continued. The phenomenon operates by introducing paradoxical quantum states that destabilize the wave functions supporting normal matter. But the process is reversible if we can understand the underlying mathematics. Understanding the phenomenon opened incredible possibilities. If humanity could learn to control the same forces that threaten galactic civilization, they could reshape matter at will, create new forms of spacetime, and perhaps even transcend the physical limitations that had constrained galactic development for millions of years. But the immediate priority was survival. The phenomenon was vast, spanning distances between galaxies, and, even with the stabilization grid holding firm, the crisis would continue for months. Every component of the defensive network needed to maintain perfect performance, and any failure could cascade into system-wide collapse. Admiral Rosa Martinez coordinated the response from her flagship in the galactic core, where the concentration of stabilization generators was highest. We're detecting stress fractures in grid section Gamma 7. Dispatching repair ships immediately. The repair ships were marvels of human engineering, equipped with technology that allowed them to function even in regions where reality itself was becoming unstable. Their crews were volunteers from dozens of species, enhanced with human technology and trained to operate in conditions that would have been instantly fatal to their unmodified ancestors. Lieutenant Commander David Park, Alex's son and representative of the fourth generation of humans born in exile, led one of the repair teams into the affected zone. His ship, the Resilience, carried experimental equipment designed to restore quantum stability in regions where the phenomenon had partially penetrated the defensive grid. Approaching the stress fracture, he reported as the ship entered a region where space itself was visibly distorted. Reality distortion at 60% of theoretical maximum. Beginning repair operations. The repair process required precise coordination between human technology and the natural talents of other species. Crystalline beings from the Vega system could perceive quantum fluctuations directly, while energy-based entities from the galactic rim could manipulate force fields with incredible precision. Working together, they could restore the grid's integrity even under impossible conditions. The cooperation that humanity had fostered over 5 years of crisis preparation was proving more valuable than any weapon or defensive system. Species that had barely communicated before the emergency were now working together as if they had been allies for centuries. But the greatest revelation came from an unexpected source. The Etherian consciousness, dormant for millennia, began to reactivate as the phenomenon reached full intensity. The ancient beings had been waiting for this moment, when the galaxy would be forced to confront the ultimate challenge and prove worthy of their legacy. Captain Elena Vasquez, great-granddaughter of the original geneticist and now commanding humanity's most advanced research vessel, made contact with the awakening Etherian collective in a facility at the Galaxy Center. They're not just observing anymore. They're offering to share their complete knowledge, not just about the phenomenon, but about the true nature of reality itself. The Etherian revelation transformed everything humanity thought they understood about their situation. The phenomenon wasn't a natural disaster or an external threat. It was a test designed by forces beyond galactic comprehension to determine whether organic life had evolved sufficiently to deserve continued existence. Countless galaxies had faced the same challenge over cosmic time. Most had failed, their civilizations destroyed by their inability to cooperate in the face of ultimate crisis. But a few had succeeded, transcending physical existence to join the community of ascended beings that guided the universe's development. The galaxy was being offered the chance to take that same evolutionary step. The choice is before us. Premier Webb addressed the Coalition Assembly as the phenomenon reached its peak intensity. We can maintain our defensive posture, survive this crisis, and return to our previous existence. Or we can embrace the transformation that the Etherians achieved millennia ago. The transformation would require willing participation from every sentient being in the galaxy. Physical bodies would be transcended. Individual consciousness would merge with collective awareness, and the boundaries between species would become meaningless. It was evolution on a scale that defied imagination. Not every species chose to participate. Many preferred to maintain their physical existence, accepting the protection of the stabilization grid and continuing their development in traditional ways. Humanity respected their choice, ensuring that the defensive systems would remain operational for those who wished to stay behind. But for those ready to embrace transcendence, the phenomenon offered a doorway to something unprecedented in galactic history. Admiral Torres made her choice as the transformation began. Standing on the bridge of Zeus, surrounded by crew members from dozens of species who had become closer than family during years of preparation, she felt her consciousness begin to expand beyond the limitations of her enhanced human body. To all ships, all stations, all beings throughout the galaxy, she transmitted on every available frequency. The human species began this journey as refugees, forgotten by the galaxy, and left to die in the cosmic void. We end it as partners in the greatest adventure that organic life has ever undertaken. The transcendence process was voluntary, gradual, and beautiful beyond description. Consciousness expanded to encompass entire star systems, then sectors, then the galaxy itself. Individual identity remained, but became part of something infinitely larger and more complex. Humanity had saved the galaxy, but more than that, they had shown it how to become something greater than the sum of its parts. The species that had been dismissed as too emotional, too chaotic, too dangerous for galactic civilization, had proven to be exactly what that civilization needed to survive and evolve. The galaxy would never forget them again, because in the end, they had all become human in the ways that truly mattered, adaptive, resilient, and united in the face of the impossible. The human stellar commonwealth had built an empire in the shadows, forged by the forgotten and designed for survival. In the end, it became the foundation for something that transcended empires entirely, a new form of existence that would carry the legacy of galactic civilization to heights that no single species could have imagined alone. The stars themselves would remember the day that humanity rose from extinction to show the galaxy what it truly meant to be alive.